Well, first, I mean, I want to thank Dr. Kresch for such an informative and insightful talk. And initially, you might say the two talks are a little bit in opposition to one another, right? Because we have one that's very clinically specific and require the presence of the patient, yet the other talks about how we can access and use our technology remotely to continue to care for patients. And I think the unifying theme is that we want to do whatever we need to do what's best for our patients, right? And our ability to think, our ability to adapt and consider things in a practical sense is really going to allow us to continue to do that. For the people in this meeting, as educators, you will impart that to your students and your residents, and it's an exciting and it's sometimes daunting time to do that. So I guess where I'd like to go from here is I'll circle back to the gonioscopy, but this is a dynamic time, and I would say this is your time. So those of you that are on the call, please participate, and either for my fellow panelists or for members of the audience that chime in and ask the questions and the comments. But I'll start it off, and one of the things that can be a little bit unsettling at times is performing gonioscopy. And I would imagine that across the spectrum of people on this call, there's varying levels of comfort with this technique. And I think that this discussion can go really two ways, and they're not mutually exclusive. One is, how do we enhance our own technical abilities to perform the technique? And the other aspect of that is, how do we transfer that knowledge to our students and our residents? So saying that, I don't know if I'm going to see comments, but I'll just keep flapping and talking here until I come up. But again, I have a pretty esteemed panel here. I have Dr. Shaglazian and Dr. Fingerette on this as well. And I think between all of us, we probably have 100 years of experience doing gonioscopy. So that's and I only have 10 of them. So you guys are.
Hey, John, thanks. So, actually, I had texted Rich Madonna because we're holding that late afternoon session, specifically on educational topics, and gonioscopy teaching is one of the things that I said to Rich, like, this is something we have to, drill down on a little bit further, I think, in that afternoon time spot that we have. I think Shira did, a really excellent video and pointed out so many great clinical pearls. I want to be able to share this with my students and residents in the near future. But I think the aspect that, maybe we'll just touch on here, and I think for time purposes, we'll have to pick it back up later on this afternoon, is teaching 4-Mir gonioscopy versus 3-Mir gonioscopy. And I know in my institution, there's a lot of emphasis on 3-Mir gonioscopy because that's what's taught on national boards. So I need some opinions of the other educators as to what's going on in their institutions. Of course, in clinic, I haven't touched a 3-Mir in 25 years, just as Shira said. So our students do get some experience with it, but again, perhaps from a more educator's perspective, we can talk about that later this afternoon and what the other institutions are doing, because 4-Mir is absolutely critical.
I agree with that. I know that historically, I think the 3-Mir has been used because it affords the stability of the view while you're learning the anatomy, et cetera. But I agree that I think a 4-Mir offers you not only the convenience and the facility of performing it, but also it adds things to your exam that a 3-Mir does not add, and that whether it's indentation or some other dynamic aspect. I think one of the things that Dr. Kresch touched on that was, in order to get your best view, there's a few things that I think maybe we could talk about there, and that is keeping the patient comfortable. If the patient's comfortable, they're more likely to cooperate. The second is keep the doctor comfortable. Support your arm, support your hand. I like to have something under my elbow, and I rest my hand on the patient and then the lens on the patient's cornea. And I think that affords me a little bit stable view. The other aspect is, remember, this is a dynamic technique. You can alter your angle, your magnification, and particularly the level of light that you're examining the patient with. I think this is vital in patients with narrow angles. I think you can shorten that vertical aperture of the light and direct that light out of the pupil. And I think you'll see that there is quite a dynamic play between pupil size and the convexity of the peripheral iris in narrow angles. identification of the corneal wedge. That is a very useful tool in assessing a narrow angle as well, where you can identify, really due to the different radii curvature of the epithelium and endothelium, which connect at Schwalbe's line, right? So Descemet's ends at Schwalbe's line. So you have these two curvatures that meet at that location, and that represents the most interior aspect of the angle. How do you see that well? How do you optimize that view? Well, if anyone tells you it's easy, they're not telling you the truth. It's actually a little bit technically challenging, but what I have found useful is very bright enough to see, sharply focused thin beam obliquely directed into the angle. And what that does is you'll see a single beam of light traverse the iris surface and proceed up the angle wall, but that light will split into two more subtle lines of light at Schwalbe's line. And the idea for that, particularly if you can imagine an angle that may have levels of peripheral anterior synechia or varying lines of pigment in the angle, is very helpful to be able to say, well, that's a landmark I can confidently identify. Anyway, I'll invite the other panelists to make a comment if they choose to, if they have something to add to that. I think, Maury, Mike, anything?
No, John, I think you were spot on. It shows, at times the disconnect in that, in schools and, teach to, for students to learn a procedure, and it's easier to start with a 3-mirror. But at times that second step, or at least for glaucoma, explained, the more sophisticated route of, or the importance of the 4-mirror. Many optometrists don't get that unless they go through a residency, and they never end up in a facility or working with glaucoma folks and never, realize that, as Shira said, the importance of the 4-mirror. And that's the one that, should become the bread and butter for clinicians over time.
And I think that's a great point. And I think without a fair degree of supervision, that skill never transfers. I think you're making an excellent point, Maury. And I know that I've taken to trying to get students to do it on each other, even our residents, because you can be much more critical of them with each other than you can in front of a patient. I never want to throw a student or a resident under a bus with a patient, but if you somehow can get them together at the end of the day, you can actually work on them and provide some very constructive things where they have the confidence, I think, that you're alluding to, is to actually perform it in their clinical duties. But I think it requires an investment.
As Shira said, you just need to do it. And as she,
yes.
I mean, it's not difficult, but it takes a lot of practice, and you're not going to harm anybody. It just takes a lot of practice to learn the touch, to get used to holding it on the eye as the patient, moves or blinks or things like that.
But also a degree of supervision, I believe.
Yes. Oh, no question. It's, you get started, as Shira said, just to understand, and you have to learn on the fly and get used to,
So this is great, and I think we're going to have more discussion about this later this afternoon, because it really is a hot topic. And Danica and I have been chatting back and forth in the chat window and stuff. And my quick perspective is, if it's on national boards, that's all the students want to practice to. And so it's my frustration with their choice of using and selecting 3-mirror, but again, that's educators' discussion. And I know we're coming up on a break here for our sponsors, and a 1-minute quick question for John, because you're my perimetry expert guy. Are you still disinfecting your holes? Because we stopped that months ago, and I didn't have any guidelines when to stop it per se. I did do, as Shira talked about in her talk about, using the alcohol spray and the light mist and all that, but we've stopped doing that. What are you guys doing at Bascom?
We are still disinfecting them, in part because we have an infection control committee, and anything happens here, it's like steering a battleship. One thing that we did at the initial part is we reserved visual field. There were 3 that we took out of commission, because we didn't know if the disinfection process, we have like 7 or 8 fields, if the disinfection process would degrade the bowl, or if there'd be other issues. So we took 3 out of commission. We did amp up. We have all of them going now, but we still do that.
You spray in between.
In between patients, technicians do that. Yes.
So, a host of companies, and I think by early next year, we're going to see it, are going to be UV, see devices,
Excellent. Yeah.
that, and you've seen them. I mean, now, heck, the airlines are disinfecting, the plane with a robot. And it's very effective, and there will be devices in the not too distant future that will allow you to disinfect very quickly. It's going to take a couple of minutes, but a perimeter, and a host of other devices safely. Because the problem is that what may be okay for the infectious disease specialist is not okay for that bowl. I mean, that the perimeter bowl, the inside is extremely sensitive and vulnerable to damage, and it doesn't take much of buildup or things like that to start to set a perimeter out of calibration. It's just not, the bottom line is, it's a bad way to disinfect a perimeter. But John, that's what we got to do right now, because that's all that's out there.
Yeah, it does make you wonder a little bit. Before COVID, we weren't as meticulous about this, but yet we should have been, right? All along, maybe we should have.
Boy, there's a lot of stuff we're going to look back and say that.
But maybe the technology will allow us to have a device that actually has a self-cleaning aspect.
Yep, exactly. Let's hope so. So, John, you were great. I always, love working with John, because he takes on the task, and for the next go around, John, we're gonna I'd like to have you do this, because I think gonio is a great topic, and forget that John has been the gonioscopist for many of the glaucoma folks at Bascom for years and years. So now, John, thank you. And with that,
my pleasure.
Kelly, can I turn it over to you for you to introduce there you are. Good. So there's Kelly, who is somebody who we cannot do without. So Kelly Rogers, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Murray. So we are going to take this time and allow our sponsors to introduce themselves to everyone. I'm going to start with our representative from ARI. This is Jessica Williams, and so I am moving her to allow for screen sharing. And it's just a couple minutes for each sponsor, so if everyone could please just sit tight, and you can take it from here, Jessica. Thanks so much.
All right, I'm just going to play a quick video to introduce ARI. Just share my screen. It says host disabled participant screen sharing. Okay, here we go.
In the blink of an eye, everything changed. Eye care faces unprecedented challenges and tremendous opportunities. What we do to survive today can become the permanent advances of tomorrow, but only if we are nimble, innovative, focused, and collaborative. ARI has been committed to these principles and to protecting vision from day one. That's how we will build the future of eye care together. ARI Pharmaceuticals.
I hope you all saw that. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Jessica. And then I'm just going in alphabetical order. So our next sponsor is Allergan. And unfortunately, a representative from Allergan was not available today. And so I will be sharing a video from them. Let me do that. All right. Sorry about that.
Hello, my name is Jag Desange, and I'm the Senior Vice President of Medical Therapeutics here at Allergan, an AbbVie company. You've likely heard that AbbVie and Allergan have joined forces. We're very proud of the Allergan name and heritage, and will now be known as Allergan, an AbbVie company. We share a common goal of developing world-class products and solutions for patients, and it's been a seamless transition. AbbVie and Allergan share a common vision to act with integrity, to serve the community, to drive innovation, but also to embrace diversity and inclusion. Together, we are working to have a significant positive impact on eye care professionals and their patients. R&D will always remain one of our top priorities. Innovation is in our DNA. We're constantly looking for ways to transform ideas into new possibilities. We look for better pathways for disease treatment, whether it's finding a new solution, a new formulation, or a new delivery method in glaucoma, or retinal diseases, or corneal and ocular surface disease, or refractive conditions. We continuously strive to reinvest in our future and offer an ever-growing portfolio of
Okay, not sure what happened with the video, but I will send it to all the participants so you can watch it on your own. And next we have Joey Hatfield from Heidelberg.
Good morning, everyone, and thanks for this opportunity. I'm Joey Hatfield. I'm the sales director for Heidelberg Engineering US. And I'd like to share with you briefly a slightly different perspective on our corporate description, starting with my top 6 reasons why we feel people fall in love with our company. Number 6 is family. Heidelberg is a 30-year, second-generation, family-owned ophthalmic imaging company. And we feel that when you join as a customer to the Heidelberg family, that's just what it is. You're becoming a part of us. Number 5 is our legacy. We have a glaucoma legacy that began with HRT that had a profound impact in improving patient care. Today, with the help of our world-renowned research partners, we try to continue this tradition through the Spectralis platform. Number 4 is kind of an odd one, but it's availability. Anyone can join the Heidelberg family today with confidence, knowing that Spectralis is not only FDA approved, but it's an upgradable and a modular platform, which means you can get more life out of your investment. Number 3 is reliability, because we feel that confidence shouldn't stop at the point of purchase. It should carry through to the clinical application. And with the use of patented technologies, clinicians are able to see change as small as 1 micron in tissue between visits on our Spectralis platform. Number 2 is something that probably precedes us most, which is Heidelberg image quality. Some people say seeing is believing, and we look at it as seeing means the ability to diagnose, which could honestly be the ability to prevent further vision loss. And this is why we use a combination of confocal, scanning laser ophthalmoscopy, and noise reduction OCT to provide the best possible view. Number 1 is the reason that you're all here today, which is education. And at Heidelberg, education and research are paramount. And this is why we've created platforms such as the Heidelberg Engineering Academy that you can find on our website, where we provide a whole library of resources and tools to ensure that you as clinicians have a lot of information and the most reference knowledge to be able to use the technology to its fullest and provide the best healthcare. So again, we appreciate being a part of this. And if you have any questions, please reach out to us at heidelbergengineering.com. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Joey. And then our final sponsor is Bausch & Lomb. Unfortunately, we do not have anything from them today or a representative, but we appreciate their support nonetheless. And so now we are taking a break. Murray, do we want to start on time? We're a little bit behind schedule, but do we want to start at noon?